Hello, 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 everyone. I think you can see me now. You're going to have to tell me if I sound all right. My camera is going to look quite wild this week. As most of you are going to see, I'm coming to you live from the mobile jitcadcam van as I travel across the country. So I'm going to give this a few minutes. We're going to make sure that everybody gets in here and can hear me plenty. So we'll go ahead and wait. Normally I have the countdown going. Today I turned it off, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a few minutes. Let's see who gets in here, make sure my video and everything's working. I kind of have you guys pulled up in a super weird way here. Still waiting on the stats to come back. Want to make sure that you guys can see me very clearly and can hear me. I can see you there, Troy. How's it going? The beard is epic. Thanks, buddy. I think it's starting to get a little touch of gray as I have more kids, of course. Can you hear me all right? Everything sounds good? Everything looks good? Awesome. I was a little worrisome because I don't have my normal microphone with me. Bogdan, great to see you again. I see you guys really starting to join. I know I didn't start the countdown this week. In a van down by the river. Yeah, down by the river in Boone, Iowa, somewhere right now. Actually, this is kind of a crazy thing, and it's probably hard to see. I'm sitting at one of my customers' locations, but they own the original Casey's General Store, as funny as it is, and they work out of there. Awesome. I see about 8 of you guys in here. Great to see each and every one of you. Hopefully you guys hear me well. If I screw anything up at any time, there is a delay now with chat and everything. I do have you guys on my phone because I can't use 2 monitors because I failed to bring a second monitor. But you guys want to go ahead and kick this off? Let's do it. So as you guys should be able to see, I'm hoping, because there is a delay, so I'm going to wait on my other screen for this, is my Fusion 360 has been pulled up. And I saw some interesting questions all week long. And I am going to dive into some of the simpler ones right off the rip. And what I'm going to say is these might be what I would say is, did you know this or did you not type of stuff? So at any time, guys, feel free to ask questions inside of the chat. I'm here to answer in any way possible. I'm going to make sure we're all the way scrolled down on chat over here. And I'm going to pull out the simple enclosure file. Now, bear with me. I am on Starlink, so if it gets a little spotty or something, we'll go ahead and be able to fix that as we go. So come on. We're going to let this thing load up. I guess I should have opened some files. That's on me. If any of you guys know, on a slow internet connection, Fusion can be a little slow. But as you can see here, I have toolpaths already on a part. Now, a question I saw on Facebook was, hey, I would like to add notes to a specific toolpath. So a lot of people came around and they said things, like you can do a manual NC and you could add a comment and you could do things of that nature. But this is kind of, the whole manual NC thing works good. But with manual NC, what can happen with that is it's for programming stops and things of that nature. Now, I can actually put a note on a toolpath, which is super neat here. So we can edit notes and then you could say, check tool. Or actually, what would be a really good one is tool uses offset, whatever, right? 107 for diameter. So the cool thing is with these notes, what you're going to notice is on your toolpath, you get that little note symbol next to that actual physical path. But when you post out this G-code, the great thing about this is it is going to post out. And then depending on what post you're using, so I'm going to go ahead and swap out to a simpler post. And what you need to turn on is called show notes. So under formats here in this HOS post, if I turn on show notes, what's going to happen is all of those toolpath notes that you've plugged into Fusion are automatically going to be output inside of your G-code right after the statement of that toolpath. So again, this is a super neat thing you have the ability to do, is to go out there and actually create notes on an individual path. And for that path to be dumped outwards when you post that G-code, and again, giving that operator more notes or reminding you of things that you forgot about, is a lot of people were saying is, do the manual NC, do it this way, do it that way. There's a lot of different ways you guys can do that, of course. Now, why you may or may not want to use manual NC now is I'm going to go ahead and place the comment above, and we're just going to say test here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that, Control D, and I'm going to place it after that toolbar. Now, where it places the data information, of course, that's the big thing I'm trying to show you guys, and how this can actually make a difference, again, when you're posting out that decode and where the location of that data is being placed. Again, we turned on show notes. Now, I do have to admit, guys, is that show notes thing, I've known it's been there forever. I never actually used it until somebody pointed it out. But as you can see, is by saying test before my toolpath, it placed it at the top, as well as stating test at the end of my toolpath, it's plugged that information in. So again, with manual NC, you could do a lot of things like, program stops, program pauses. You can even actually check tool wear if your post is set up for it. But where we put that note on the path, that will be posted obviously right there after the title to that toolpath, right? So again, super cool thing. If you guys did know that, maybe you didn't know that, let me know in chat. I see a lot more of you guys coming in here. As always, we're happy to have each and every one of you. If you guys have questions, feel free to throw them up inside of the chat window. So let's go ahead and go look at something else. So now somebody went ahead and reached out, and what I'm going to do is I am going to use post here. Give me a sec. Now, somebody reached out to me, I believe it was yesterday, and I'm going to grab this Samsung post to see if it'll do it. But their problem is they were only getting 2 positions after the decimal point on a feed rate for a tapping cycle. Now, based on that feed rate for a tapping cycle, I'm going to pull this up here, guys, is what could happen, depending on your tap feed rate and your speed, is that tapping feed rate being too slow or too fast causes that guy's no-go gauge to bind as it goes down in the hole, right? So in the case of this actual temporary debug file I have, we're using a 5/16/18 tap, but that feed rate is only being output as 2 positions, right? So this is kind of something that, the question is how do I fix this? Well, the first thing is you do have a feed rate format. So we can go and try to find cycle.feedRate. And what I'm going to do is you can see automatically off the start, there's 40 to 45 instances. However, I'm at, 44 instances of this. I'm going to go down because I like to get back to the top as fast as possible, because usually I can start to find what I need to edit. Now, as you're seeing here, I'm not getting to the section that I may actually need to edit that information, but I do know off the top of my head, a lot of these default settings are sitting up here at the top in variable, right? So the variable we actually have is feed format. So I searched feed rate. So again, is what we're looking for is feed format, which is looking at feed per minute format. Now, this is very important for you guys out there with a lathe or a mill. Everybody's situation is different, but you have feed per minute, and then you actually have feed per revolution. Whatever you plug in on this line will change that information based off what you're doing, right? So what we're doing is we're doing a feed per minute. So I'm going to go to variable feed per minute. And then as you can see, is it's calling out a decimal of 2 or 3, depending on if we're millimeters or inch. So if I change that from a 2 to a 4, and I go ahead and hit save, what you're going to notice is now I'm getting 4 decimal places on that file when we post that out. So again, I don't know why I'm moving my mouse here. I would assume that it's because I'm trying to do everything off of one laptop with streaming and all that. But again, as you can see, is you can make these edits yourself very quickly and very simply to add those additional information in. So again, is a 5 thou difference in feed rate in his case was causing his go, no-go gauge to bind, because although he had the right pitch, the feed rate did not match the pitch of the end mill, causing it to be in either a tighter or a looser kind of thread per inch situation. So I'm going to open this up to you guys. Do you guys have any questions, anything at all on your guys' end? I see it's pretty quiet in chat. Great to see TC Alpha again. Bogdan, you're here. We see a lot of people coming and going. Do you guys have any particular questions, anything that you guys want to see inside of Fusion, outside of anything I can do to help you guys out, I'm here to help you, of course, like always. We'll give it a couple minutes for you guys to put something in chat if you guys have anything. It does give me a perfect chance. I'm going to grab a water real quick. It's been a rough week for yours truly, from going from SHOT Show to now all the way back down into Iowa, traveling across country. And I'm not seeing a whole lot in chat. You guys just come in here to hang out with me. Usually you guys are flooding me with questions by this point. I feel like it's always like, I got to get this thing going in the first 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden it takes off, right? So, cool. Not seeing a whole lot of, oh, there's Deep Thinker. Is there a way to do serial numbering? So actually at the moment, Deep Thinker, there is not a way to do serial numbering inside of Fusion. But as we've kind of talked about, depending on your machine, it's going to be a sub-program or a sub-routine call-out. You can, of course, enter that in as a pass-through, and then upon it being a pass-through, you could put whatever that information is, and that would call it out, right? So if it was a M98P, let's go 2525 call-out, when I post that out based on my tool paths here, so I think I'm going to luck out here because if I remember correctly, the Akuma post does have pass-through on it. And then with that pass-through, we should see our M98 call out. Now, of course, it's going to make me a liar, and I knew it was going to do this because this post in particular does not have pass-through in it. And we could verify that by editing. Again, we're going to go ahead and edit that post processing. And now I'm going to Control F pass-through. And as you're seeing, we're not seeing anything for pass-through whatsoever. Now, we can actually add in pass-through so that we can do exactly like yours truly is doing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and try something else, as we're going to look at, we have sub-programs, use files. Now, what I'm looking for is an NC action in order to do that, right? So again, as we scroll through our program, this is all of the formatting inside of the post to be able to do a subroutine or a sub-program for everything inside the file. Now, what I might want at the end of the day down here is the ability to do a manual NC sub-program as well. So there's not a right way, there's not a wrong way. Now, if you wanted to add the ability to do pass-through to your post-processor, what I'm going to do here real quick is I'm going to jump back to where yours truly is beautiful face is so that I can pull this up on my other screen here. So I'm going to give this a second. I think I already changed my screens. If I didn't, feel free to let me know. So now we can go ahead. I'm going to open this up on my other page to show you guys. Give me a sec here. And well, I guess I can't post. Well, I could post it in chat. So I am going to post this in chat real quick before I switch my camera back. But if you ever want to add a manual NC pass-through into your G code, at the end of the day, this is how you're going to do it. So let's get back to yours truly screen. Now, this runs you through the process of using the pass-through, right? So what I need to do is I need to edit the post processor in order to do it, right? So again, I can either see this additional article, and that additional article may have the ability to do it as well. But again, you have the ability to go through and find wherever that is or wherever that code is in order to add it. Now, it's going to take a little bit of searching here. And there it is right there, as somebody has add this block of code. And we're going to do that based down on the lower area. So let's actually get the correct one. So we're going to copy this line of code here. And then we need to put that down a little bit further. So there's two parts of this. So you have the case and you have the function, right? So again, at a quick glance, this is going up towards the top if there is on manual NC, of course. So let's go ahead and minimize my screen and get back over here. And we're going to see on manual NC to see if there's anything on manual NC. So beautiful. It's right there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back over there because I'm going to steal both of these both at the same time. Just makes life a little bit easier, right? So again, we're going to go ahead and copy. So we have the function, and then we have the case, of course. So let's go back down below. We're now going to paste in, which I'm going to push Windows V here if you guys didn't know. Oh, let's back up just a little bit. I'm hitting function V. So Windows V, we have our case and we have our function. And then from there, we could add in the case as well, right? So again, we have that first part. And then if we look for the case, and there's a lot of cases here. So as you can imagine, we need to find the right area to add that in. So again, we may make it much easier on ourselves if we could see a line number. Now, I don't see a line number here, but we could go in and see there's a command, action, and things of that nature. So again, very easy to go back and forth and search these things as you may need based on the actual values. So and again, function on manual NC, we could add it. So let's go back. So let's go back to what we were doing here. So again, we have on manual NC commands. Now they've changed the way a lot of this has been wrote inside of Fusion. So you do have to be a little bit careful on how this is going to happen. I'm going to start by the function on pass through, and we're going to see what that gets us to start with. So let's save that and let's go back over to Fusion. Again, we're going to post out two things at the same time just to make sure that it all comes out and see what we get. So again, is all you need, as you guys saw there, was just that function added on pass-through. It has now generated that code automatically, and then there's my pass-through, whatever I'm going to call out. So again, Deep Thinker, I hope that helps you out a little bit with a different way you could go about placing information in your post to call out that specific operation and how it's going to work. Cool. With that, does anybody else have any other questions? Because as always, guys, I'm here for you in any way, shape, or form. Again, anybody that is new to my channel right now, or anybody that's new to jumping in and checking this out, is I have the ability to do these free supports, and I do these free supports based off what we call buy me a beer or other things. So every week, you all out there buy me a beer of some sort, and you contribute to my content, helping each and every one of you. Of course, I am not going to drink a beer on the channel, but Jeff, I did just see your order come through, which is why I'm cracking my can open right now. I think there's a delay, but as you guys can see, Jeff bought me a beer because he loves this content. There's ways to help you guys out. You guys can also like, follow, and subscribe, but I guess this beer goes out to Jeff this week. For the record, Jeff, I didn't see how many beers you actually bought me, so... So I guess that's always a good question. I just saw the email pop up on my phone that Jeff bought me a beer in some way, shape, or form, but who knows how many. Jeff, how many beers did you buy me? Actually, you don't have to answer that. I don't want to. Oops. Oh, shoot. Are you guys still there? There we go. Hold on. I think we're here. I've been here the whole time. It's probably been awkward. You all staring at me. Jeff, you did. You bought me one beer for sure. Can you guys hear me? Are we all good? All right, let's see here. Can you guys hear me? Can you see me? All right, so it looks like I think we're back. I think we're back up and running. Got to clear out, move some stuff around. Got to bring up my own live stream at a live point where I could see myself without a delay. All righty, and I think we're back. I really do. I think we are fully back here. Give me 1 sec here. I'm going to go ahead and make a few more adjustments. All right, we're good. Awesome. Jeff, thanks for the beer, man. I appreciate it. As you can see, we're drinking an energy drink for you over here. It's not as great as you guys can tell on this video stream, coming to you live from my mobile van as I make my way over to Chicago. Cool. For anybody that's in here probably laughing their ass off at this point, do you guys have any questions about Fusion or anything in particular you guys want to see about Fusion? Anything you're missing out on? Any problems you guys had today? I did see some pretty big changes come through. I think they showed, oh yeah, that's what we should talk about. They are showing up. Let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and kick my screen back over. I think you guys can still see me. Everything should be good. I'm going to take a little bit of time here because I got to wait for my phone to process what I did so that I can see that you guys are looking at the right screen. But did any of you guys see in this latest update the new heights stuff they did to us? I'm surprised more people haven't freaked out about that. That in the Heights tab, you now have these lovely icons, as almost like yours truly over here made a suggestion that it would be nice to be able to say highest of, but yet do something like, actually, let's do this. We're going to swap things over so we could show this in a little more real-time scenario, right? I got to think where my parts are going to be here. Actually, we're going to go for a part in the default library. So cam samples, and we need a part with a jig and a fixture and everything all in one, right? Here we go. Intro to 3+2. So one of my favorite things is the fact that now we have control in a different way, right? So like on a toolpath, I'm going to just go ahead and dump everything here so we could just do brand new toolpaths on this part. But if I was to go in and just say 3D adaptive clearing, the old, like when they made that jump from the Heights tab, and this is what drives me mad, is they brought back stock bottom for all of the traditional kind of guys out there. But as you're going to see is I'm going to go down, and this was my thing about this, right? Like I want to go to a bottom height, and what I would like to say is lowest, but then I also want to be saying, you know, highest of top of fixture, right? So again, it's going to look at the lowest of stock. We're going to look at the lowest of bottom. Actually, we're going to go ahead and ignore. And then it's going to still respect the highest of the top of our fixture. Like this was a big thing to me. And it's going to take me some adjusting, as it's probably going to take all of you time to adjust to this new system. But the fact that you can now say lowest, but yet still use the highest of a certain situation, right? So this is something that I think is massive at the end of the day when you consider in these different scenarios how you're going to program your part or setting yourself up for success with templates, right? So this was something super neat to me to be able to, you know, either go down to model bottom or go to, again, because we're going to the lowest. What is lower? Is model bottom lower? Or is my fixture top the actual lowest point? This is something that I absolutely love, guys. This was a good one on Autodesk part by all means. And again, to see how this can actually work out really well is if I was to move said part, actually, we're going to go ahead and need to not pick a face, but a component. And if we were to drop our component now down inside of our jig and fixture, again, now our model bottom is no longer that part, right? So again, we go back into our manufacturer, we regenerate this toolpath, and what you guys will see is, again, we're going to respect the lowest point. So in this case, we actually hit our jig because we're avoiding our fixture because of fixture avoidance in our setup. But as you can see, we are now able to machine down again based on those settings that we've put to the lowest point possible. Our model bottom exceeds now the fixture top, meaning our toolpath can actually go lower. And then because of our fixture avoidance, as you guys have saw, is now avoiding hitting our actual fixtures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and jump over to show you guys this is in fixture. We have a default setting of a certain amount. Now, if we want to change that default setting for just this toolpath, we could, of course, type in a negative. And as you can see, it will reduce, not -1 inch, let's go 100 thou. It will reduce that temporarily for just that toolpath. I think you guys lost me again as my live stream is cut out. This is obviously not going the best, but I'm going to keep talking as if it's going to work eventually. So let's go ahead and get back in here and see if this loads. There we go. We should be back. But as you can see, we have the ability to adjust at strictly just the toolpath level. Again, as if we were going to add an additional model at the toolpath level, or we can adjust it kind of globally at our setup level. So if we only want to avoid our jig by 50, we could go ahead and plug in 50 instead here. And then globally, it basically affects each and every toolpath. So in my opinion, I like what they did with the heights tab. I like that they also brought back the traditional stock top, model bottom type thing, because I don't think one is right or wrong. I do like the more I played with it, the highest of or the lowest of, because it will say, upper or lower threshold, and I can see the value there when we start to work more in the future. But with that, guys, do you guys have any other questions? I don't know why my phone keeps cutting out, but if somebody wants to throw something in chat, maybe I'll still see you guys in chat because I do have live chat pulled up. As long as you guys can see my screen, I'm happy to keep cranking away without seeing what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a minute. Maybe I need to refresh my phone to make sure you guys aren't saying anything in chat. There we go. Looks like we're back. So it looks like you guys can still see me clear as day. I just keep cutting in and out on my phone, and I can't see what I'm doing. But I wonder what else has happened. Let's go ahead and check the what's new. Did they publish the what's new yet on Fusion 360? Drop in support for Windows 10. January 27th. Okay, so we got the latest and greatest. Fixed crash issues. That's always great. Organize and reorganize columns in the tool library. Cool. Deep drilling, it wouldn't show an error. Yep, cool. So let's see what else we got. Let's just jump down to manufacturer. That's the only thing we all care about. Profile roughing, add option to skip wall passes. That's interesting. Profile roughing. Actually, it just reminds me, I got something I want to show you guys. It was pretty interesting to see. Problems with small tooling, as always. I can understand that. Nice, so you had circular fitting. Now we got cylinder fitting. That's cool. Reuse tool orientation. What is this? Oh, look at that. That's pretty neat. You guys see that one yet? So you can actually pick another toolpath's tool orientation and reuse it. It's almost as if you could derive tool orientation now. What else do we got here? Reuse geometry selection across different tools. Collision avoidance for drilling. Improved heights UI. We just took a dive at that. I've been on the road traveling so much, everyone. I haven't had a chance to look at any of this. Nice. I like this, the silhouette and where it generates that chain. I was working with somebody about something like that before, where it would either generate a chain right there at like way up in the Z or way down in the Z versus being at like model bottom, as you guys can see, the lowest Z of your model that you're machining. And then we get into additive manufacturing. Awesome. Cool. Some pretty neat stuff that we got added. Reuse geometry selection across different tool paths. So you could reuse, I think they're setting a manual. That's sick. Look at that. You can now pick your tool orientation and your pocket or chains from one to the other. That's going to be super nifty. I'm going to challenge you guys. Who could actually come up with one of the most creative ways to use this? Because I see this, and to me, if I was to go in and let's just do this with a 2D toolpath. Let's really put it through its paces, right? Tool orientation. We're going to go here. And we're going to pick that pocket, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the floor. Geometry, boom. And now if I wanted to do another toolpath, got to go ahead and flip that here. So I've had this happen before, and I am really happy it's happening right now because I had a customer come to me about something. Do you guys see how I'm picking that floor and it's giving me the option by default? Pretty sure Autodesk has changed something, but it's doing a face contour. Now, face contour is handy as heck if you're doing like a flat surface and you want to chamfer around a part, you can use that face contour. But they were going through and they were picking all the chains on something, and I said, dude, what are you doing? And the reason is because it used to actually by default do a pocket selection, and that's what I wanted here. So I'm super happy this popped up. But if I pick that face based on a pocket selection, notice how I get my hard line boundary back around my part. So as you can see, again, I've now got my toolpath. My toolpath has a contour selection. It also has a tool orientation here, which means if we were living life dangerous, which why not, right? Let's do trying to think what's going to be fun. Let's do a scallop. Can we just go from 3D to 2D? So if I go in and I say tool orientation, coordinate system is this guy. Oh, look at that. Automatic tool orientation based on that other tool path. And then geometry-wise, I'm going to assume we can't do a boundary selection. Oh, you can. You guys see this? This is wild. Now, what's really neat is this is linked. So if one changes, I'm assuming the other one is going to automatically update as well, right? That is super, super neat. So again, terrible toolpath, guys. I agree with any of you before you say anything in chat. See, oh, we got all kinds of messages in chat. Sorry, guys, they're just starting to come in. So rebuild a PC and lost your entire tool library. So PC Alpha, let me show you something here. So what you need to do is you need to go to your preferences. And in your preferences, you need to actually go to manufacturer and turn on your cloud library. So make sure you turn on your cloud library. Again, I'm going to put this on Autodesk because apparently they listened about fixture top as the lowest. But why isn't the cloud library enabled by default on everybody's license? I don't get it. I really don't. But we're going to enable that cloud library. And upon checking that box, what we're going to do is if we look at our tool library, what you're going to notice is I now have the cloud area. So let's shrink these up a little bit. So you would normally just have local, but now I have cloud. So if you've lost all your tools and everything because your computer died, one big thing is stop saving them to your local area. Now, I am the exception to the rule, and I say this because I have to edit machines and tools for a lot of you guys because you put in tickets with me. And that's why I put them in my local area, because it's a temporary bucket that I clean out periodically. But as you can see, I have my cloud area. If I was using Haas tool holders or I'm using a DF2 machine, I can keep that in the cloud, allowing everybody on my team to use it. But also, as you guys see when I'm on the road here, I jump from a laptop to my desktop at my house. Everything moves back and forth super clean for me. So it should work more than acceptable for everybody on the shop floor. So PC, I hope that kind of answers your question in the future on how to fix that. And Deep Thinker, I see that you jumped in there. I appreciate it. Yes, 100% put it in the cloud. We got Matt Van Loo with super long cycle times again today, so he's joining the chat. TC, I don't think you can ever actually be new to this or not new to this, right? Like this new update, as a guy that's been using Fusion now for 8 so years, it's crazy to me that all of these updates that come out, like I feel new to it, right? Like you guys saw it in real time, other than when I opened up Fusion today and I was like, boom, like, oh wow, the heights tab has changed, right? Again, we're either back to stock or your highest settings and the icons and all the stuff that happens, right? As I tell most people, I have no idea what I'm doing. That's my big thing, right? I just know how to figure it out or how to make it work, right? But outside of it, awesome, cool. TC Alpha, you got your cloud trimmed in. That's amazing. I appreciate it. Matt's over there rebuilding shunt hydraulic vices. Nice. So Dovetail's not holding very well. If you guys didn't know, Matt over there runs a big old Akuma with a whole lot of power. So he might be fighting that system now. Have you guys seen that new work holding where they do a V? It's like a diamond dovetail to hold on to parts. That's a pretty neat system to keep everything from sliding around versus your standard straight. Awesome. Guys, if you have any questions, every Friday, we're always trying our best to be here. As you can see, other than a little bit of technical difficulties, we're still here this week to try to help you guys better understand Fusion and the different things inside of Fusion. So I'm going to show you another one while we wait for a ton more questions to come in. I'm going to think about the best way that I can get this to happen, and I think it's going to work better with 3D, but I want to check it in 2D. So as we're going to see, yep, okay, cool. So in 3D toolpaths, especially getting into your 1.5 horsepower. So as you have done inside of Fusion for a lot of you is once you start to lean on the side of using full 5-axis machining, well, you're going to start to have a lot more options when it comes to your heights tab. Now, notice how, again, depending on what you're doing, upon switching to full 5-axis machining, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off tool orientation in this case, is you're going to get different height settings. So I didn't get it here, so let's go ahead and check something real quick because I think it's only, there we go. So we're now starting to get different settings. So the clearance geometry is pretty big at the end of the day. So we're going to go ahead and click on tool orientation again because what I want to do is get you guys set up. Let's go ahead and let's switch tool paths altogether. This might not be actually, let's do a deburr toolpath. I believe deburr is going to have what we need. So let's get our ball end mill from somewhere. There we go. And let's go ahead and go full 5. And now, again, as you're seeing, as our geometries by default are set, basically automatic. But I wanted to create this system because I've gotten this question a couple of times over the last week or so, where in a 5-axis toolpath, or using 5-axis, you can see how all of my clearances may or may not be jumping a mile away from my part or, like over traveling my machine, right? So this was something somebody brought to me. And for this sake, let's go ahead and narrow down what we're doing. So what I'm going to do is we're going to say selection only, and I only want to do this space here. Let me see if I can get a real nasty version. There we go. So if you notice how far this tool is coming in on this part. Now, this could over travel your machine. This could cause a lot of problems, right? Well, what we can do is we can actually customize our heights based on different types of modes, right? So one thing we could actually do is we could set a clearance based on maybe a sphere. And that sphere is going to need to come from a point if you're going to go ahead and set that manually. So what I would need is a sketch point to go off of, or I could go based on, in this case, we could do our setup WCS origin. And then what we have that ability to do is to create things like a specific diameter, right? So this is kind of neat. If you set that diameter to say 3 inches, now all my clearances come from that ball diameter, right? So again, is what's going to be neat is my lead in and my lead outs and my linkings have now been modified to that sphere and then comes down into my part. So if I duplicate for another example here, again, we're going to go in. This time we're going to say, maybe it's let's go 8-inch sphere, right? So again, what you're going to notice is we're getting different results on how that tool is going to interact with our part and where it's going to start from to get down inside of there. So again, we could duplicate that. We could switch out from a cylinder. So let's actually go to a cylinder. Direction based on our setup X. And then the same thing is going to apply again. Now, if we added a lot more tool paths here, we could also change that diameter going back down to like 3 inches. We're going to get a similar result as you guys have saw. So this is, again, getting into collision avoidance and how we lead and link things in to our part. You have full control over that based on those settings. Now, something you can do outside of that, though, is I'm going to go back to the original one, and we're going to go ahead and set that back to automatic. Is a lot of people, I think, haven't realized yet, but you have the same ability to control stuff up here at the top under modify. So you have your leads and linking moves. So again, is you can actually modify them also using the same kind of theory and strategy when it's going to jump from one place to another, right? So if we were to add in a few more chains here, so let's go to my geometry. Let's say we want to do this edge and this edge. And now what you're going to see is notice how we're jumping up super high in the sky. But if we were to do a lead and link modification, we could actually go through and modify all moves if we wanted, or we could do individual moves. Again, you have that ability to select things. So for example, we start here very far away from our part, and then we're going to retract way up. So I would like to modify these two and only those two. And let's just leave it by default because, as you guys know, I'm a firm believer of hitting OK. And let's go ahead and see what we get for a result, right? So we can individually manipulate leads and linking moves. Again, you have to have the extension to Fusion in order to do this. But this is very, very handy when you're getting into wild 5-axis type stuff. So I hope that helps some of you guys. I see a ton of you have jumped into chat somehow out of nowhere, hearing me blabber over here. A ton. So with that being said, I am going to, of course, thanks you guys as always. I'm not shutting it down yet. I'm trying to jump back and forth, make sure that there's nothing crazy going on. I think I did see somebody else bring me some beers. So give me a sec. You guys get to stare at my beautiful face while I pull back up my email. And of course, I want to thank you guys. Anytime you support our channel, you can support our channel for free by liking, subscribing, and sharing our content as always. But if you feel that you ever want to give a little more, which I guess I should jump over to this page. I think this page is the page that I get to sales pitch you guys. So as you can see, you guys have that ability. Yep, it was Troy. Good old Troy has bought me a few beers as I thought. I saw him pop up there for a moment. But you guys can support us in a lot of ways. We create a lot of content. The buying the beers, you have the ability to go ahead and buy your Fusion through us. You can move your Fusion seats over to us as well. And we do things like offering support tickets and post-processor edits, as well as on-site training, which is why some of you were probably questioning, like, why am I sitting in a 2011 Ford passenger van? It's because I like to sleep on a cot like a man. That's why. No, I'm just kidding. I'm here for you guys. I love to travel. It's gotten me a chance to meet one of my customers that I would never have met on site. So, Wes, oh, good old Wes. I was at Wes's place 2 weeks ago. Wes, great to see you in here. So, I think somebody might have put in a ticket. So, I see somebody asking about a Sile machine here. I'm going to go ahead and keep this quiet unless this person is in chat right now. Go ahead and let me know if you're in chat and I can share this file. But I'm going to go ahead and close that out in the meantime, and then maybe I'll reshare my screen so you guys can see my beautiful, beautiful part that we're not really working on, because I'm waiting on each and every one of you guys to ask questions. Oh, there he is. Jeff, you're there. All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and kick back over here real quick so that you guys don't see all the technicalities in the background. But we're going to go ahead and get his file downloaded and stuck in here. So his question is, he has a Sile X7, and the part almost consumes his entire X travel on a facing operation. Had to switch it to the y-axis direction because if you hit the limits, is there a way I can swing in from the y-axis and face along the x direction? So we're going to go ahead and look at this a couple of different ways and see what we can come up with. So I got the file downloaded. I should be able to show you guys my screen without embarrassing myself. And let's go ahead and get you thrown into the Free Support Friday. Other than that, you guys, how's everybody's week going? Turn my mic down just a touch. I could do that. All right, let's see here. Get the mic turned down. Is that better? You guys still hear me? Not peeking out as bad? I get a little excited once we get going and I start yelling. For anybody that's met me in person, you guys know I'm a loud person in the first place. All right, so we got our part. Oh, this is a good part too. Let's see some stuff on this part. This is a really good part. So the question is the way he was facing off this part is, I'm gonna go ahead and flip some things around here real quick. We have the ability to change our path direction, of course. Oh, let's see what we got going on here. Stock selection. Oh, you got it set there at 90. We're going to go ahead and zero that out. There we go. So the problem that Jeff was asking was the ability to go ahead and face off a part, but he's almost over traveling his machine. So the good news is I think he has his machine in here. So let's go ahead and do a simulate with machine. And as you guys can see, we have our machine. And if we go ahead and simulate what's going on, the problem is on his machine, which will look a little weird, but his travel is actually limited down here. He can't get his spindle as far over left and right as some of you guys may be able to do. But he was curious, is there a way to start and bring that tool in kind of in an L shape? Now, by default, there's no real easy way to do this. But as you guys may be seeing here, is with this toolpath, he's just making maybe one pass or making, two passes based on a step over. So what he could do in this situation is we could actually use a trace toolpath to achieve what he's trying to do. And I've seen this before, and I've showed this to some people, and it's a super neat way to do it, is if we create a sketch on that top face, and if I was to now create the kind of profile that I want my tool to follow, so I'm going to make this very generic here. And then with that, I have the ability to now grab these edges or constrain these edges based on using my actual constraint tools or dimensioning. And with that, going back to the manufacturer side of things, is the reason why I say something like a trace toolpath here would be extremely beneficial is because I can actually select using center line of the tool off that sketched line, right? So he's got an 1.5 inch tool here. Our geometry is now going to be this edge, which is going to run down and around. And as you can see, my tool path follows my sketch, right? So if he's facing what is going to be a x-axis over travel, right, is now using that sketched profile, I can use that to my advantage to control how that tool enters in, as he was asking on the y-axis because of his over travel. Now, keep in mind, yes, guys, I know we're conventional milling on this feed move. I just wanted to show you the system of creating that sketch. We should probably go the other way at the end of the day so that, we're making that lovely clean cut. But what you're seeing is that ability to now run down that part, of course, come off whatever that distance is, and then run back across that part and exit. Now, I could have added another line here. Yes, there's a lot of things I could have did to fix this. I think I just lost video, but usually it seems like I don't actually lose video. You guys are still watching me live, even though. So hopefully I'll come back here in a second. Usually takes a second. So let me pull myself back up. But the idea is still the same. You're seeing me do this with nothing more than a trace toolpath. So let's slow that down a little bit. again, I can now manually control that facing operation to come into that part and come down and around. Again, we could add a second dog leg there if we want it. We could extend that first chain to go around. We could, of course, do things like multiple depths still, all fully controllable inside of the software, making it think that now it isn't going to be as automatic, but the idea is still the same, that if I wanted to make 3 step downs, there are my 3 step downs at whatever dimension to create those profiles, right? So again, just a little different way of thinking. As you can see, I'm able to go in and create that profile and define that to be able to machine off using that actual sketch that I created. So this actually has a lot of value. Now, shout out to another Phil, which you guys are going to laugh about this. There is a part maker Phil out there that I worked with. He uses part maker. He's the wizard. He is, as you may say, the grand old man of part maker. But he showed me this technique in part maker when we were looking at doing a part, and I'm going to sketch this for you guys. But let's just say we have a round part. Props if you guys can find the video where I think he does this. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but if you had a part like this, and then we have a cutout on that part, right? So we're going to go ahead and do this number, and we might bring that up just a hair. I assume you guys get an absolute kick out of watching me model stuff every once in a while, but I think we're all guilty of this, right? So for some reason, an engineer out there has put a 60 thou radius here, and we need to basically machine this flat and cut that fillet, right? Now, a lot of you out there are probably already thinking to yourself, there's a lot of ways to do that, right? We could have gone in, and let's get this set up here, Z-axis up. We are not on a lathe today. We're going to go ahead and use some round stock based on a axis, rounded up by 0, of course. And with that, we have our Z-axis. Let's go ahead and do this as if it is going to be on a axis rotated machine, right? So we're going to do this in the rotary, or you're just going to put it in the dice. You need to rotate it. But that same concept all still comes into play here. So if I needed to go in and machine something like this, I think a lot of us are thinking like, oh yeah, you know, Fusion and Phil, you could do that with like adaptive clearing, right? And we could pick our pocket, or as you guys will see, is I'll actually say, this is my pocket to work with. So let me hold my Alt key this time. And then maybe I want to machine down to a selected floor. And then I know my tool in this case. We're going to build one. So let's go with a, trying to think what's going to be the easiest. Let's call the old face mill out. And that face mill has a 60 thou radius, identical kind of to what we're doing, right? And as you're going to see, we're now doing an adaptive clearing toolpath. Of course, I'm going to clean up the floor. And then what I'm also going to do is we're going to hit this with a finishing 2D contour, right? Same edge. Yes, guys, I could have derived this. I get it. Let's extend it by like 1, 2. And now, for those of you that didn't know this, you could do multiple passes, of course, to get your floor all at once. So let's say we're going to do 10 passes at 1.8 step over. And what we're going to get is a lot of extra passes, right? So this is another pro tip for a lot of you guys out there. Matt, you're 100% correct. Your boy is still alive in the $500 van that I drove all the way to Vermont and realized you're much shorter in person. So you guys may not know this, but upon applying stock here, because of the way Fusion thinks, it always thinks a to and from scenario. So by adding stock, it's now thinking from that stock boundary all the way to that edge. But this might look familiar to you, right? Like we roughed it out, we went back, we went ahead and machined it into a flat. Now, the thing is this is very inefficient in a production environment, right? We're wasting a lot of time here. So this is where the shout out goes to good old Phil Jennings, is the ability to go back to design and use that exact same method with the trace toolpath. But this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my line, and then I'm actually going to come off my part, back up. Actually, we're going to stop here because I'm going the wrong direction. So let's back up. So let's go this way so that we can come in with that last pass across and actually mill the shoulder all in one shot, right? So what's going to happen here is we're now going to dimension some stuff, which is going to require a projection of this edge, because that's my finished wall. So now I can dimension from that lovely purple line back there out. And we know that's a 2-inch mill, so we need a 1-inch here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set that finish pass across there, right? So I know I want about a 30 thou material left on the wall scenario that allows me to make that finish pass. Again, guys, yes, we could do a horizontal vertical now, align this guy. I could also, for the record, set a dimension from the end. 2-inch face mill, we probably want to start 1.25 inches away. But notice how I'm using this exact same technique as we just did in Jeff's case to come in and machine that edge as clean as possible and eliminate the over travel on his machine. So when we go back into manufacture, this time I can, again, use trace. And then with that trace toolpath, I simply pick my geometry. Now, pick it the first time, click it a second time. You can also edit it over here. But what I'm doing is I'm linking that full toolpath down and around, right? Now, when I created my sketch, I automatically accommodated the ability to do my extension, right? So from that, we have our profile. We can now go down that part, come out, over, and around, and machine that wall all in one pass. Again, looking at our cycle times and our time savings, which is very key, is instead of wasting, according to Fusion's calculations, not mine, we're going to go from somewhere like 1:20 to 1.5 down to 30 seconds to be able to achieve that task, right? And if we had to, of course, guys, you could always do, again, multiple depths. You know, we're going to do a 2-depth situation at 40 thou, things like that, right? So again, oh, we didn't need to. We just added a additional pass. Let's go back there and change that to 1. So that's 1 additional pass, of course. And as you can see, we make a roughing pass and then we reset and we make our final pass. So when we're machining that material, we can get our material turned on here so you guys can see it. And then simulating this, again, we come in, we just machine down that shaft. Again, we come out of our cut now, and then we can come back in, allowing us to cut that actual flat using the side of our end mill. Now, I'm using a face mill. You guys can use anything else that you want. Obviously, I'm just here to show you guys a little different way of thinking, especially when we start to talk into high production machining, of course. So again, coming down, using that sketched edge to eliminate cycle time and create a all-in-one toolpath, as you guys can see. How do you guys feel about that? Let me know in chat. Is this something you haven't thought of? Were you guys shocked by the fact that Jeff brought me a part and we went ahead and just used trace instead to go and face it off? Got to go ahead and turn my heater back on. My toes are getting cold. Any other questions from anybody and everybody out there? We're here for you guys. We're here to help you in any way we can. I was a little skeptical about the live feed from the inside of the van. TC Alpha chip fitting, I think you had a pretty good idea there. However, I don't think it's going to give him the control that he wanted on that facing operation. Because you definitely don't get the ability to do anything like pick a lead-in position or anything of that nature. So I think in the case of what he did by changing his passes to a different direction, that actually worked out quite well. But outside of that, he might have to go through and pick a little different way to be able to go in. Now, chip fitting, what chip fitting is going to do is it is going to bring it across the y-axis more. But I think his real problem is he didn't have the actual x-axis travel. So for anybody out there that doesn't know, let me go ahead and clean this up here a little bit. So we're going to get that sketch out of the way. Is if you're going to face something off, notice how we're feeding straight into the part. So when you're feeding straight in,
you have a tendency to go in slotting, which can load up that tool and it can cause deflection. I actually saw a post on Facebook. This was super interesting to me. Is somebody was saying my new Haas machine does not make this plate flat. And he had a picture, I think some of you guys saw it, and there was about a 3 thou variance from all 4 corners. Now, where that actual face mill fed in deflected, and then as it came off the part, came back in, came off the part, it actually affected all 4 corners of what he was doing. So as you saw with PC Alpha, he said chip thinning. The cool thing with chip thinning is this is going to allow us to slowly cut into our part. So as you're seeing here, instead of slamming or plunging straight into that part and loading up that tool, we could actually come in and slowly arc into that part, meaning we're climbing into our cut, right? So again, chip thinning, super helpful. I cannot speak for the fact that maybe this would work for Jeff's situation. I'd be curious to hear. But I think Jeff's situation is he just didn't have the distance in the X to start out to the left. Can I look at the rest of the operations and tell you if they're efficient? Sure thing. So as you guys saw here, he's faced it off. Obviously, he's breaking his edges on the backside using, looks like a chamfer. My lovely trace facing operation. So as you guys can see, we're going to go ahead and flip over our part to his next setup. Elijah, I see you out there. Am I in the FBI surveillance van? No, I'm actually in the jitcadcam surveillance van. We are spying on our customers across the country to make sure that all of you guys are trained up to be as efficient as possible. But as you can see, he's using 3D adaptive clearing. Looks like a beautiful tool path. Now, this might be a spot where a lot of people are going to argue about this. Jeff, I don't think you're wrong, and I don't think they're right. But given that you're doing all these small little arcs and loading up and deloading the tool, some people may want to look at this and do something like a pocket clearing and then use a high feed mill. Now, you're on a SILE machine. I'm going to take the assumption that the X7 is much newer, which can handle a lot faster feed rates. So in a case like this, I may look at it and say, first thing, what does it look like with pocket clearing, right? So again, we're utilizing the same geometry. We're going to go ahead and turn our boundaries off. And then what we're going to have is a maximum step down in here somewhere. So I'm going to take an educated guess and say we're probably going to do like a 30 thou step down if we were high feed. And with that, we're going to get a much different result, but we're also going to have rest machining here in a minute that's going to piss me off. Not in a bad way. It's just because when you're trying to compare tool paths, it doesn't work the best when you have rest machining turned on after another tool path. So again, we'll give this a second. As you can see, this is very straight line and linear. We are getting some very funky moves. I blame Jeff on this one because he probably changed something at some point. But we may be able to machine this part faster and cleaner with high speed, right? So from a time standpoint, I'm still using that speeds and feeds that he used for shouldering. Now, if we were to do pocket clearing, we may see something like in excess of like 230 inches per minute. And again, we could actually speed up our lead in and lead outs as well. So I'm just going to manually override a lot of this. And again, ramp would be way up there. But what I'm trying to give you guys is that idea of when you're trying to remove a volume of material, again, we reduced that tool path. We didn't quite get down to where he was. Again, if he was having problems with a jerky machine, or if you guys are on a super old machine, Jeff, I see you there. It's aluminum. Thank goodness it's aluminum. But if you're on an older machine like a Fadal or something that doesn't have look ahead, pocket clearing is going to be a better scenario. So in this case, this is an aluminum part. It's pretty much effortless for this tool to go in there. Other than I hear a lot of times people complain that they just don't like a jerky machine. It's probably a little violent. I would love to see a video, Jeff. It would be awesome to see. But I don't think you're wrong. Let's get that there. As you can see, Jeff is then coming back, which is a little surprising to me. I see what's going on. So this is where he isn't able to split between these parts because he has a 375 gap, and he is using a, I believe you're using a 3/8 tool, right? So again, rest machining to clean out the areas with a smaller tool, 1/4 inch adaptive. I think this works great. So now he's coming back and he's cleaning this up. Now, this is where the magic is going to happen, because I have a hunch, Jeff, that you, maybe I should turn my screen off before I look. Oh, yes. All right. So, Jeff, we're going to get the same results here, but the thing is I'm going to show you an easier way to pick all these edges, right? So Jeff went through and picked each and every chain on this. Again, you guys can do this. You guys want to do this? You guys do this. Do this as much as you want. I would not do it this way. This is where I would use instead the ability to actually select these all using Pocket, right? So if I go into Pocket and I pick my floor, what you're going to notice is it's going to now go through and find all those hard edges, and it looks at that floor as an open pocket, right? So again, I'm going to get the same results. I'm just going to do that with a heck of a lot less mouse clicks, right? So again, this is a pro tip for you guys out there. You can use different selection methods to make your life a lot easier on parts like this. Now again, he went around the top of each and every one of those to go ahead and chamfer them. Awesome. And from there, he went ahead and chamfered around the outside. So it looks like overall, other than maybe combining these two tool paths, I think for the most part, Jeff, you did quite a hell of a job on this. Now, again, I'm going to test something because I have a theory here, and we're going to duplicate this. But Jeff went ahead, and this is this chamfer tool path, using that exact same technique as you guys saw me just do, is instead of picking all of these chains individually, again, if I went through and said Pocket, now this is where you have to change the way you think, right, guys? So we're going to go ahead and use Pocket selection again. Now I need to set my heights because initially it's selected contour. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to select the lower edge of just one of them. And let's see if we get any results from this. So again, this is where something like using that pocket selection, and I say pocket, it's got to be pocket, guys. It can't be face contour. But as you're looking, using pocket selection, I very quickly, in this case, was able to go grab everything. And this only works with something in the same Z plane, right? Now, TC Alpha, great point. You could deburr this by all means. I think he's got model chamfers here. And Jeff, I'm going to take a hunch here, and I'm not trying to say anything bad, but I'm going to assume you also don't have the machining extension to have access to the deburr side of things, right? But as you can see, again, I don't think there's anything inefficient. If you would have sent me this part to do it, it would have been some of those rare occurrences, in my opinion, that I'm going to duplicate what you have here. Is if I was to program this up, we're going to go ahead and leave your face mill in there. I may have just did everything with 2D adaptive clearing, and that would allow me just to pick that floor. And then from there, turn on my stock. So let's go ahead and grab that 3/8 tool. And the only reason I would do it this way, in my opinion, is because it is a very 2D part, right? But what that allows me to do is to rinse and repeat as I can shift things around here. So there's my roughing procedure. I could go through and derive. And we're going to go 2D again. 2D adaptive clearing. We're going to go to our tools. Again, we're going to swap our tool out to that 1/4 inch. And then from there, as you guys see, we have our pocket. We turn on rest machining. I know that was a 3/8 tool. Excuse me there. Sorry if I blew out anybody's eardrums. Again, getting our rest machining the same way that he did. I don't think one is right or wrong, as you guys see. Again, we can hit it one more time. This time I go through, I do my contour around each one. And then lastly, I want to go ahead and chamfer some stuff, but this is a good thing. I love seeing when I do this stuff live, you guys see these problems because it's amazing because I derived off of rest machining. So it automatically only stopped and it's doing those little slots. Now, this is important to anybody new in here watching this or new to Fusion. Get the blue lines on your parts, guys. It's the #1 thing that I see people fail at is the ability to get a blue line allows me to go back and troubleshoot why I don't like those blue lines, right? So I knew right away the rest machining was the problem.
So we can go ahead and turn that back on. And again, we could just rinse and repeat, guys. Again, another derive, 3D, straight into contour. I'm going to pick my actual chamfer tool now. So let's go ahead and get that 45-degree chamfer tool. I need to change my height, as you guys already seen me do. And this is where, like I said, I don't think anybody is right or wrong. I'm just using a lot of years of experience with very simple tool paths that normally you did it the right way that I would suggest to people is 3D is your best friend if you're going to use templates and you're going to bring in templates, right? But this all gets better. This is like, we're going to roll this thing up into the way we started this is because now that we have that ability to link things off of each other, I really want to see something here. So Jeff, I'm super excited that you sent this part in because if we take our tool paths here, and I want to see, so it didn't link the actual geometry, right? But if we are manually linking our geometry here, so let's go through and let's redo these couple of tool paths here real quick, right? So what we're going to do is we're now going to link everything off of one another because I'm going to turn this into a template. We're going to see what happens. So again, there's my second tool path. We're going to go ahead and regenerate that. I'm going to tell you right now, guys, if it wasn't for the fact that I don't have a high roof van, you would see me jump up and down if this thing is going to work the way I anticipate it to work. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, Jeff. First year, man. I feel like every year is my first year. Okay, so we got everything linked, and I would like to prove, we're not even going to prove if it works, right? So all of my toolpath chains are now linked to one another. So if I was to change the first one, so let's just say we're not going to use pocket this time. Let's just go around the outside, right? Oh, we're going to need a bigger, we have rest machining on. We are going to ruin this file today. Hold on here real quick. Let's fixed size box. Let's make it 14.25 by 1.75. There we go. So we're going to regenerate everything now. So check this out. So I only picked that outside chain, right? Take your bets. You guys think it pushed through to all my other tool paths or not? Because I'm thinking it did. So one, we can't rest machine anything right now because that smaller end mill that's second in order, because we only went around the outside of the part. But now our 2D finishing has actually worked. And crazy enough, our chamfer has also worked, which is, the chamfer is basically useless if we were to turn this into a template. But if I was to take these three tool paths and turn them into a template, which I think I'm going to do, let's just go for it, right? So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and not edit these. Let's go ahead and store as template. And I feel so wrong saying 2D rough rest finish. Man, this is going to be wild. And then we're going to do what most of you guys hate to watch me do, and we're just going to rip everything out of here. And then let's paste it back in, I guess. So we're going to go ahead and create from template. We're going to do our 2D rough rest and finish. As you guys know, I'm a certified magician. Love to do these magic tricks for you guys. But we're going to get an error, and now I'm curious. So I'm going to go and edit the very first one. Now, I think this is going to be important for you guys. This is going to be the make or break ticket item, right? I can't get rid of this chain if this works. I have to reuse this chain. So if you're somebody like me with that habit of deleting that closed chain and then repicking it, I think it's going to break the system, and we're going to test it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to repick now. Again, that's a closed chain. So just for the hell of it, we're going to pick that chain at the upper edge, and then we're going to hit OK. And now I'm curious, is this going to regenerate? It is going to regenerate. Did it regenerate? Of course that did. And then we're going to regenerate here. However, it looks like it broke the link. I think it did. So it dumped the pocket selection there. And yeah, we lost our contour selection when we turned it into a template. So answers the question. You can't link across tool paths and save them as a template and bring them back in. So I do see what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my big ugly face back up on the screen here. And I do see a couple messages floating through in my email. So I want to make sure that everybody gets a fair chance here. So we're going to go ahead and take a look. So we're going to go ahead and that is actually a ticket for one of my other customers. I don't believe they are inside of the chat right now. So I'm not going to. Oh, he is. There he is, Joe. You already know me too well. All right. We'll go ahead and get this cracked open. So we're going to go ahead and get this file loaded here in the meantime. So we're going to open this up. It's going to take a couple of seconds. In the meantime, I also saw what looks like somebody possibly messaged me on Facebook here. Just want to make sure you guys aren't doing anything too crazy. Is Trinity Precision out there anywhere? Because it looks like... Oh, there we go. Hey, that makes more sense. Now I know what's going on. It's Jeff, that's you. All right, we can show this on screen. Hold on here. Let me get some other stuff cleaned out. We need to get that opened up inside of Fusion. So give me a second. I'm going to reshare my screen in a moment. So Jeff, nonetheless, actually did machine this part, and he did accept it 100% that I said you should send me a video of it running, because it's probably pretty wild. So let me get you guys squared away here. You guys should all be able to see my screen now. Apparently, Trinity Precision Works is on Instagram, and you guys are more than welcome to go follow him and see what he does. But he ran it on a steel machine, and it now makes sense what I'm looking at. It's possibly the most expensive Allen 3/8 Allen holder I've seen yet. But as you're seeing, you have that ability inside of Fusion to do that stuff. And I believe here in a second, it'll actually show you it running, which runs pretty quick on that style machine, as you saw. So as it gets in there, and that's what I'm talking about, you can see it doing its little shake and dance, scares a couple of people every once in a while. Now, I don't know how well this is coming across for you guys to see. I could, and I think I'm going to go ahead and throw this link in chat. So give me a second again, guys, because I don't want you guys to see all the Band-Aids and bubble gum holding this operation together over here. So let's go ahead and minimize here. And let's get that link to his Instagram up here. And if you guys want to go follow and subscribe, as you guys can see, we are all about you guys. We love to support you guys, and we love to see what you guys do. And let's get back to Fusion. So we're going to go ahead and pop up my screen here. Joe Goodman graced us with a part. And Joe, do you want to go ahead and throw the actual information about this part of what you were trying to do in chat? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wait for that. I see a pretty good question come in from Isaac. What is my opinion about the constant changes to Fusion 360? So I personally can see the frustration that people have, but I can also tell you that I rather see the changes and the constant fixes happening versus the days of when I used Mastercam and you were barely lucky to get 2 service packs, right? So, like, in my opinion, would you rather have the software update a lot and then if something is broke, be fixed within, 2 to 3 weeks? Or do you want to wait 6 months for something to be fixed and not have any updates? Now, keep in mind, it's 2 different scenarios, and I'm not saying anything bad about Mastercam. I still have a special place in my heart for Mastercam. But I think for a lot of people out there, the 3 to 5 minutes it takes for Fusion to update is not that frustrating. I think when they roll out a lot of this stuff, they do it quite well. There's times where as I will tell each and anybody until I'm blue in the face, Isaac, you tell everybody, like, hey, you guys can go sign up for the Insider program if you didn't know. And in the Insider program, you fully have that ability to go out there and actually help shape the future and pre-test the software if they want to. I like the updates. I love the updates. I love that they continuously try to improve on this. Now, I do have to say there's times where they do something very quick, but it seems like they can kind of reshoot a new azimuth and recourse correct it back to where it needs to be. So I'm going to go ahead and swap my screens again because I need to get back to Joe's ticket since Joe disappeared on us. And let's see what he's got for me. So I'm going to go ahead and read this off to you guys. It's a part he's making. How can I keep the tool from returning to tool change position in between tool pass with the same tool? There it is. So let's go ahead and jump back over there. Sorry, Joe, I didn't realize you were typing over there. So as you guys can see, what Joe is actually doing, it looks like he's got his first. Oh, he's doing these on there. Let me just make sure everything looks all right. And then, so Joe, you're actually doing this in a lathe, which is really interesting to see. Aren't we all a little slow? It's Friday. You should be slowing down. So as you guys can see here, he's actually doing something kind of interesting where he's programmed in the ability to do a custom bump stop. And he's actually, this is genius, Joe. I love this. I love when I get to see you guys' stuff because it's like, Joe today has just showed me that you can use a drill tool path as a bump stop in your machine. As funny as that is, that's pretty crazy, right? Like he's coming in and he's using that so that you can hand pull or hand feed the next part. Genius, right? One of you guys out there are going to watch this and you're going to be like, that is genius. I'm going to do it, right? But he basically just did a comment so that, you know, hand edit from drill to stop. Now, Joe, so you know we can actually do a custom drill tool path. So if you go to your cycles, you have what's called custom. And I've done this before, is you have that ability with a custom tool path to actually come down, stop, and then we can do like an M01 or an M00 so that the operator then can make that motion automatically. So to add the fun to this so that it works flawless for you, there's another way that we could also do it, but I like the drill method. I like this. I'm going to make a workflow Wednesday just for this. But as you can see, the problem he's having is when he's running the same tool multiple times. So as you can see, he's tool 7 here, and then he's flipping 180 degrees, and he's doing tool 7 again on the backside. So if we post out this G code, well, the first thing I tend to look for is there a safe retract setting? So you do have safe retracts. In the case of the Akuma post here, which I don't think is his post, this is 100% on me. Joe, I need to know what machine you're running real quick. If you don't mind throwing that in chat. If I remember, I think you are running a Haas or a Doosan. So I'll give you a sec here. Now you guys got the gears turning. I'm super pumped. DS30Y, there it is. All right, so let's go ahead and grab us a turning Haas post. And that was a DS30Y. There it is. Joe, I don't know if I told you I'm going to be in your area here in about 2 weeks. So I'm going to stop in and see you guys. All right. So we do have safe retracts. As you guys can see, is we can actually set custom positions in our Y-axis or our X-axis based on what's going on. But I always like to post out to start with and see what we're getting for codes, right? So if he didn't want to continuously jump, and this is where I'm going to show you guys this, is when he gets down to the end of his program, he's always going back to 0, right? And this is his complaint, is I don't want the machine to go all the way back or all the way retract up, as you guys can see. Now, there is some things that we could, of course, do here, is we could change that Y, as you guys saw in the post. So if I went in a second time, and when posting, this time I'm going to say in the X-axis, I want to stay down by 3 inches. So I'm going to say X -3, and we're going to repost that G code. And what you guys will see is, of course, it's 3 radial, 6 diameter. That's why it's posting this way, as you see. But this would be a simple way to keep it down. Now, you have to keep in mind the turret is going to that position. Now, if we did something with a tool change, and I want to show this to you. So let's say we go from tool 7 to tool 8, right? So we're going to post this again. Where this can be a little bit dangerous is because, again, is we're not quite going back out to X0 for our tool change, as you guys can see here. So one thing we could do is we could always force an X0 on tool change and then use that X position at any time outside of a tool change. So that is one way you guys could actually do this, is to always force an X0 in certain situations, and that's on a tool change line. And we could do that by editing the post. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and post process, and then I'm going to hit the little pencil next to this because I need my post open. And now what I would do so that I can easily find this in my code is I would actually post out those 2 tool paths again, but I'm going to use the export CNC file to Visual Studio Code. What this is going to do now is this is going to spit out a file, and we're going to put this under a different number. Again, it's going to post the same. It's going to give us a warning because this is kind of a weird post. But when we go back to Visual Studio Code, as you guys are seeing me pull this up, is if I open up, again, you do need to install this Fusion plugin. I always want to make sure people are aware. You need the plugin for this to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to the bottom, as you guys have seen me do probably a million times at this point. And we're looking for that category called custom, which you will only get custom once posting it with the actual export to NC. There's my 1212 file. And now, as you can see, it basically spit out the exact same program. However, I can edit this program. So like we talked about, I can jump down to the line where, as you can see, we have that ability to insert a tool call, right? So again, based on that information, if I click around, I may want to add a custom code in here, which could be right block. And then simply enough, we're going to just put this in with a set of brackets, and we're going to say G53X0, right? So if I hit save and I did this right, you're going to notice I now have a G53X0, which would ignore the policy of our other G53X0. Now, you guys all saw me at one point put in a -3, right? So that is not a default in the post. So I'm going to scroll back up here to the top so you guys can see this. So let me find where it's at. So as you can see here, we have our G53 home position is still 0. But if I change that to that -3 like we talked about and I hit save, what you're going to notice is now it populated the 6 over here on the right. So again, after it does that, though, it then will jump up to X0 so that it can actually do that tool change. So again, as Joe was asking, is how can you like simply enough do this? Well, I would just force every time by adding this one line down at around 1892. This is the newest version of this post, Joe, so make sure you're on this version. I can force it to only come off so far using 53 in between operations. So this is a way you can cheat the system and then force always go home for your tool change, right? We could get a little more technical, and you could add an if statement. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that because I want to open up the floor to more questions if anybody else has any questions outside of that. I did see, I think I have another Facebook message to you real quick. Let me make sure. Nope. But do you guys have any other questions outside of that? As you can see, this is probably some of the stuff that I absolutely love to see at the end of the day, because it looks like Joe is bar feeding square stock for machining. Or is it, Joe, are you doing round stock and then milling it flat? Is that presumptuous to what you're doing?
Another thing for you guys to see here, Joe, I'm going to show you this one. So this is actually a pretty good one. Is it looks like you guys are doing a bore toolpath. However, this is something that I think a lot of people fail to realize is he's boring an oblong hole, right? So it is 3/8 square. Awesome. So you're running 3/8 square through your, what is that, a 5C or whatever on your DS? But as you can see, he is using the ramp toolpath with a boundary selection to be able to go in and ramp downwards at an angle to cut that profile. So he's using X, Y, and Z. Now, another way Joe could have did this is he could have did 2D contour, which not right, you're not wrong. But what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and use that fancy new feature, right? We're going to say coordinates is the same as this. Man, this is so cool. I love this. This is probably one of the best updates in a while. But now that I picked my geometry, right, I'm not going to do both of them. It's not a big deal. But I could have set this with a ramp and then plugged in my information as such, right? So again, he did it based on using the ramp toolpath. I'm using ramp inside a 2D contour. Again, neither is right or wrong, guys. You guys can see how we can get different results. It's still all the same. So presumably he's going to start from this height. He's probably going to punch down through the bottom 20 or so. And as you're going to see, we need a finish feed rate because somebody, yours truly, didn't pick the right tool. So what tool is he using? Tool 6. Again, he has that ability to set his speeds and feeds. And as you can see, I'm now using a ramp tool or a ramp lead-in and then machining at a final feed rate. So one thing about this way, Joe, again, nothing wrong here. You can go ahead and actually set a different feed rate for the red because that is a ramping feed rate versus when you did it up here, you did it all with the same feed rate and then ramp down. Another couple of things, if it was very important, we could go in and we could actually set that to use things like tool wear so that we could comp it if it was critical and stuff of that nature, right? So Jeff, I see you out. Can you get a modified version of the part? Sure thing, we can get you a modified version of that part. I don't know, did we really modify all that much? Not a big deal. We can go ahead and hit save. I'll get you a copy of this sent over right away. In the meantime, anybody else have any other questions? Feel free to throw them in chat at any time. It's kind of weird. I don't have a lot of stats this week. So we'll go ahead and let this process and get exported. How to put a pyramid straight on the machine, but still set coordinate system on the top of the part that is angled. I think I know what you're talking about. So you have a pyramid with like 3 vices on it, correct? Man, this thing is taking a hot minute to process. What is going on with that? Oh, of course, now I closed it out and it's complete. Jeff, I'll send this back to you so I don't have to close out my screen. But what I'm understanding is somebody has a pyramid fixture for their machine and they have angled fixtures on it. So example of that would be is I'm going to draw this up real fast for all of you. Now, this is not going to be the right way to design something like this, so bear with me. But let's just say the base of this thing is 12 inches and the height is 5. And then hypothetically, we're actually going to add some flats to it. And whatever those angles are, you guys will know better than me. Or you could go out and grab a model from somewhere. There we go. And then I am going to go ahead and pattern. Circular. Features. There we go. So we got three-sided pyramid, right? Now what I'm going to do again is I am going to do this very generically where I'm just going to draw a simple part for the example purpose of what he's asking, right? So again, here's that part that we're machining. This is a new body. Again, guys, components. Use components, components, components. I can't make this up enough. Please use components. Don't do it this way. This is your disclaimer this week. But if I was going to manufacture something on a, riser or on an angled fixtured situation, when I create my setup, and there's a reason I went with something like this, is because I can put this on like a UMC. We don't want to download that model. Let's go to my machines. And I feel like we brought in a 5-axis just last week, didn't we? This is a 5-axis, isn't it? Yeah, there it is. BC. Let's put it on a Doosan. Let's change it up. And of course, yours truly failed to save this file, so let's get this saved here real quick. There we go. And now we can hopefully do it right this time. So again, we're going to select a machine. We're going to put this on a Doosan. Maybe. Starting to like it. There we go. So we got our fixture on our planner. We have our parts orientated. So the question is how would I go about utilizing this and setting this up and then running it at the machine, right? So the problem that is going to happen is if I go in and I say my Z-axis is over here, one, yes, my stock is turned. Let's get our X-axis squared up too. That is the model we want to manufacture, but our part position, as you are seeing, is still stuck in the realm of being angular, right? So the problem is right now inside of Fusion, you don't have the ability to align that pyramid at a different angle than the XYZ based on your part. Now, keep in mind, this is where we could change things up, which this is where a lot of shops, when you talk 5-axis, start to talk about 0 point, right? So what I would almost tell you to do at the end of the day is, again, your Z and your X would actually be based off the pyramid fixture, right? So again, my Z is now up top. My X might be to the right still. However, my location for this could be based off a selected point, which might be bottom center of everything I do. Now, presumably, you would have to let me know, Nez, whether or not you're using something like a Fanuc control or Siemens, because the great thing inside of Fusion is, oh, let's fix this here real quick, guys. Let's get our fixture added in there just so we could see it. There's our fixture. And then what we're going to do, and then we need that set to 0 so it sits down on the table. So if you're dealing with a machine that is a Fanuc, Siemens, Heidenhain control, they also have plane shifting ability inside of that controller. What that allows you to do at the end of the day, when you start to create your tool paths, and we've kind of talked about a couple of different ways to do this, but if we set our tool orientation, because I want to face this block off, and then again, my X-axis could be still squared up the same, but I can actually move my WCS to wherever I want it, right? So as you can see right now is my WCS could be that corner. Now, this isn't going to move that work coordinates from the center of my part. What it actually is going to do is do a plane shift inside of the actual controller so that the math lines up, right? So I do need to fix my stock. Give me a sec here, guys. You would have to go from solid. It's going to be the same size of my part, which isn't a big deal. And there's my facing procedure. So if I was to post this out, again, we're using the Fanuc post processor in this case. And we're going to go ahead and hope everything goes kosher here. But we're going to get our 68.2 in most cases to shift this. And in this part, we actually aren't getting it. So we would need to modify our post to get our G68.2 shift. But it would shift it from here. Now, keep in mind, this is why I tell you guys, is when using Fusion simulation right now, it's not going to allow you to accommodate on that Haas machine or any machine by setting your XYZ the way we were and putting it perfectly flat on that actual table. Now, something I have done for a lot of customers is the ability
when you actually are doing something like this is we've actually put that fixture on the machine sim. So it's in the machine sim file, and then your machine by default is orientated to something. Actually, I can show it here. This is nice. Autodesk is, somebody asked a question, what do I think about updates? I love updates because the updates allow me to actually go in and show you guys a lot of neat things, right? So again, is based on the idea that when we run this, we would actually model your machine sim like this. So the tombstone would be in there, or your riser would be in there, so that when you're working in this particular fashion with the riser, it is orientated to the XYZ position as if you were going to probe it, right? So this makes your life a million times easier, and it would allow you to work with a part at a weird angle on a tombstone. So, and again, is you can, by all means, I've made videos on this so you guys can go out there and see it. It's very easy to add stuff to a machine sim file by all means. I actually have a video of a UMC 750 where we put a Kurt vise on the side of it where it's got those lovely mounting holes. Awesome, guys. Do you guys have any other questions outside of that? It's been another wild, amazing week over here at jitcadcam. As always, you guys hit me with all these crazy questions constantly. We love doing this live feed type stuff for you. Haas post, there is a fast tool change. How can I add this feature? So Deep Thinker, are you talking about preloading tools? So I'm going to have to pull up the Haas post now. Oh, I can't even edit that one. Oh, you're talking about fast tool change right here? So again, we would have to add in a couple of those items, but I would say my question always comes down to, is that something you need on every post for every machine in your shop, or is it specifically just one machine? Because it may actually be easier at the end of the day. Hope in here. Actually, yeah, we could do this. So we're going to go ahead and just pop open a milling 2D face. Oh, nope, we need a tool change, don't we? So we're going to scroll down further. So as you're going to see, in this case, and again, the reason why I asked this question is because if Deep Thinker only has one machine with a FANUC control, we could obviously edit that post and not worry about his other machines. Now, given he may have multiple machines, FANUC control, some with fast tool change, some without, he has that ability, again, is to just take a copy of a post. As you guys can see, I have this Doosan milling post I've been customizing for one of my clients, and we can save that and make it a non-standard post. Now, his question is upon going in and doing a tool change, things like turning off coolant codes and stuff like that, what I would recommend is jumping down to that line of code when you can see there's a tool, insert tool call, right? And then you have that ability to add or delete. A very simple way to delete certain things. In this case, we have a preload, right? We could actually double backslash in front of something and remove just that line. Or if you go forward slash, that's my fault, and an asterisk sign, then move down to the bottom of whatever you're doing, asterisk sign with another forward slash, it will only delete out that block of code. So again, as you're seeing right now, there's this whole thing about preload tools. That is that tool T0 on the right. And if I hit save, you're going to notice T0 has now been completely removed. So this is where I would tell you is if you're really looking for that fast tool change, as simple as a checkbox, I'm happy to accommodate you as best I can to do that. But I would tell you, it's almost easier for you to go in and manually remove the codes from the post yourself with just a little bit of investigative work, of course. Now, there's nothing wrong with it, but you guys completely have that ability. Let me undo everything here. You could always go in, again, on your own, and you could open up whatever Haas post is. So again, we have fast tool change. We'll edit this guy. Again, I'm going to go ahead and type in fast tool change, copy this, find it. Now it's 3 different locations that I have to put certain things. So again, there's this call out. And then as you're going to see, it's got coolant mode off. And then again, we could search down a little further. Again, it's here in this segment. So you could steal it, copy and paste it over. Yep. So you want to preload, but you don't want to make a pre-shut, or I can't speak. So based on his machine, when he calls up the next tool in the carousel and he goes to change in a fast kind of situation, he doesn't need to stop the machine, go to the home position, turn off the coolant as several different steps. He can actually just say tool change and it'll wrap it up and automatically cut the coolant all in one swift motion. So it would still be the same thing, right? So you would go in. Again, I think I need to turn on fast tool change here. So let me get down here. It is in this post, hopefully. Preload tools is checked. Okay. But, oh, of course. Yours truly is breaking these posts. Direction not supported. That won't matter. But as you guys can see, you could go in and make those changes. Deep Thinker, I'm always happy to help you if you want to send me a copy of your post, and we could take a look at it and see what we could do. But as you guys know, I love over here to give you guys all the answers as much as I can. And as you guys saw, what I would do is just use the export to NC, and then I would reload it in, and I would use that as my debug based on the actual tool paths and the examples that I need, right? So that's all I do at the end of the day is a little Control F work and using the tools that Autodesk has built to make my life much easier. So with that, I think I'm on the way out, right? And we're kind of at the top of the hour. I'm going to hit you guys with a little sales pitch as always. I love to have you guys. I love to work with you guys. I'm doing this literally from the love of my van on the road so that I can continue to help you guys. And that's how we do things over here at jitcadcam. We always say it's not what you know, it's who you know. You all know Fusion Phil here. And with that, if you guys want to support our channel by subscribing, liking our content, sharing it out to anybody and everybody, that's why we built it. We have a system here, and the system is very easy. You guys ask the same question 3 times, we make a video, right? We love to do that so that you guys don't ask us a 4th time. Not that we won't answer you, of course. But you can support us, like I said, likes, follows, subscribes, and shares. You can buy me a beer. You can buy your Autodesk licenses from us directly. But with that, I'm going to give you guys a quick 60 seconds if anybody has any other questions before we kick this off and get out of here, right? So I'm not seeing anything. Let the countdown begin. I got a little bit of this lovely beer left that you guys all bought this week. Thank you for Tony and somebody else I can't remember off the top of my head, and I apologize. I guess one other thing before I go. Do you guys remember the Red Green Show? It's a Canadian show that used to be on old PBS. Great show. They have one of the best outro lines I think I've ever heard in my life. And that's, does anybody remember that? The good old-fashioned keep your stick on the ice, right? That is probably the best way to go off, and I think I'm going to leave you guys with it. I'm not seeing any questions. Guys, go out, have a great weekend, get rested up for Monday, and thanks for joining us.